everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today I'm doing my top 10 best movies, plus the middle two, because I had 23 movies. And I kind of messed up the bad list because on my phone is, we both received new phones for Christmas. We both had very old phones. I especially had one, and that was old. And so we got new ones. So they're very sensitive with the screens. You just barely touch it, and something terrible can happen. So I, on my list in the letterbox, I moved one, and it screwed my whole list up, and I didn't realize it. But anyway, moving on. So this is the top 10 2023 movies, and I'll just, because I'm starting from the least to the best, even if they're my top 10, I'll do these middle two. I called them my mid, and it was mid-high because I thought I had 24. It was mid-high, mid, and mid-low. Well, I think it's just, I'll call them my mid and my mid-low.
Safi, when you, just so you know, Safi, when you call a movie mid, that's a bad thing.
Well, not for me.
Oh.
It just means that it's when it's just in the middle. There's nothing else you can say. It's neither par excellence or par bad.
Well,
it's just in the middle.
I think something you should mention too is that I think probably like 70% of the movies on your list are movies that I had to force you to watch, and they're movies that you wouldn't have watched if not for me forcing you to, right?
Well, one was a car movie. Like I said, I don't like car movies, but
I don't either.
A couple of car movies have actually come out in the last few years that are actually pretty good. Have a good story, good acting, interesting, and so if you're not a fan of a certain genre, it always helps to have a good story and good acting. So, that being said, and this one that was in my top 10, I'll just say it what it is, Gran Turismo. You haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's interesting and fun, and it's a true story, too. And then, what was the other thing you said? Oh, let me see. I'm just looking through my list here. Another thing that kept me from wanting to watch a few of these were that they were so long. I hate these 3-hour movies. I really do. Because I just feel like it's just too long of time to... I have so much to do that, just watching a 3-hour movie, it just seems like I'm burning time that I don't have. But, and one of them, I won't tell what that is, but it didn't seem like the length of time that it was. So it was a 3-hour movie plus, and if you saw the ads.
Yeah, technically then it's a 4-hour movie.
And so it's just too much for me. I don't like it. And then the other one, it seemed a little long, but it was important, and it was good, but there's just some things about it, but I won't say anything else. Anyway, that's basically, so you're talking about 3 movies there, right? There were some of them I just never heard of. I didn't even know they were out. And so he just likes to exaggerate. He's related to...
No, I'm not.
He's related to the other people in the
family
that I
know. Because you say no to watching those. In fact, you threw a temper tantrum over having to go see Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters.
Because it's a long movie.
But, so I had to force you to watch it, just like with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And, that's how it is with you. Even though you're a reviewer, you have to be forced to watch movies.
Okay,
Even though you're not forced to watch all the movies. You didn't have to suffer through Peter Pan and Wendy, the Marvels. You didn't have to suffer through those.
Well, that's good because they sound like, just on the face of it, they sound like trash. So, anyway, and sorry to the people who made those, but I mean, they just don't sound good. Okay? Well, anyway, so remember okay, well, I had 23, and it's 2023 movies, which is interesting. I didn't plan it that way. And then my 12th one, this is my mid-low, was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It was a Christmas movie. And like I said, it's really in the mids, but it's mid-low because it's on the threshold of the lows, the top worst. So it was just okay. I mean, it was a Christmas movie. So it's not something you're going to watch all year long. It's probably something you just want to watch every Christmas.
I would never watch it again.
Well, I don't think I would either. So
there you go.
So it's still, that's why it's a mid-low, and it's not a top 10 or something.
That's a mid-movie.
I had it higher, but then, when you look at the list of just what's good or what's bad, then you can see if you have something in there that doesn't belong, you'll move it. And that's what I did.
You also couldn't tell, and this was really funny too, you couldn't tell if the snowplow driver was a man or a woman.
No,
because
that's not... Well, what am I supposed to say? I couldn't help it.
I thought that was funny.
She sounded like a guy.
Yeah.
And she was very big. Because I think if you drive something like that, you couldn't be petite and little. You'd have to be a little bit big because you'd have to have some bulk to drive it. You'd have to be strong.
Well, it'd also just be from sitting all that time.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of things you do with those snowplows. You have to be extremely careful.
I mean, I came in and it was like the ending of the movie, and I had to tell Safi that it was a woman. She didn't believe me at first. She was like, "That's a woman? What?"
Well, something was said in the movie towards the end. What was it? Her son, she wanted to get this game for her son. And I'm like, whose son? Her? And I'm like, oh, it is a woman. So anyway, but that's nothing against, it's just a little Christmas kids movie. And I'm not into watching, for the most part, kids movies anymore because all my kids are all grown up, and once that happens, you don't really seek out watching kids movies. When you're a young parent and you have kids and you want to watch something that's really probably more appropriate for them, or that you think that they might like because it's aimed towards kids, then you're willing to seek those out and watch them more than if you're not a young parent anymore. I mean, that's just the way it is now. So anyway, that was my number 12, mid-low. My mid one, my very middle one would be Yes, Chef Christmas movie. And I think the title is not written properly.
Well,
when you're watching a cookie show,
it's a weird title too.
It's just not. It's not a right. They did not write it right because they're trying to say yes, chef. When you watch any of these kitchen cooking competitions, you have the people and they say yes, chef. They'll say, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that. Yes, chef. Well, this is yes, chef, and then Christmas, but it's just the way it just isn't right. They should have put the Yes Chef Christmas movie. They should have put that all in the title. So anyway, you're going like, well, what is it? Because I don't think a lot of you would have known about that. The reason why we know about it, because I don't think we would have known about it, or we wouldn't have sought it out. Like, this is an A&E movie?
No, it's a Lifetime movie.
It is a Lifetime movie.
Which is a big red flag,
okay. Well, Lifetime movies, and I know this, I have a Lifetime channel, and the reason why is because they usually put out a few good Christmas movies a year. They don't put out an abundance of them like Hallmark, but they put out, and they have been putting out like at least one quality movie. A few movies, and then one of them is pretty good. I watched one, I'm not sure if it was Hallmark or Lifetime, that was really unusual, and I can't think of the name of it. I'd have to look. I don't know if it's still on Hulu or not, but I just saw it yesterday or the day before. I just thought I'd watch a few of those kind of movies, and
I don't really think they're real movies, though, but, you know, if you want to pretend like it's a movie, then...
Well, it calls itself a movie. But
well,
we know it because Buddy Valastro is in it. He was in it 4 times. And these 2 twin girls, Tia and I don't know if Tia was the one who was in it, but there's 2 twins. They're called the 2 twins. There's a set of twin woman actors named the Maoris.
Safi, they're called actresses.
Well, whatever, Marco. They're the Maori girls, and one of them is in it, and she wants to be a chef, and Buddy Valastro is her longtime. She's worked with him for a long time, or known him for a long time, and we know about the movie because we watch Buddy Valastro's Cake Dynasty, and he talked about. They showed him filming the movie during one of the episodes and talked about it. So when it came out, at least I did. I don't know if Marco did. I don't think he did. I watched it.
No, I didn't watch it.
And, you know, it was adequate. I'd probably watch it maybe again next Christmas.
No, you won't. That's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie.
No, it's not. That is not a bold-faced
lie. Yeah, it is. That's a total lie.
No, it's not.
Oh, we'll see.
I used to watch more of these, but they're so predictable. There's a predictable romance. The thing that made this one different, which I liked, was she did this thing, and a lot of people do this, but they don't really put that into a story. She did her in the show, this part of the story. She did her the 23andMe. I don't think it was Ancestry.com. That's the one I belong to. That as for to do your research. But she turned in her DNA because she was adopted, and she wanted to know her, see if she could find her family origins. Even though she loved her adoptive parents, she still wanted to know.
Was she related to the devil?
No. That was part of the story.
Wouldn't that be a good movie if you did an ancestry test and you found out you're related to the devil?
Cute, Mark. So anyway, that was part of the story, and that was made into the story. So I thought that was an interesting twist. I've never seen that before. Maybe if you know of a story where that's been part of the story, let me know. But I thought that was interesting because usually they're just so predictable. There was a contest, and she had to compete for it, and she didn't even have a restaurant or anything. She cooked for I think these old people in nursing homes. And that was her experience at the present, because she had left a high-powered restaurant, and it had shut down, and they blamed her because she said it was due to her mother had died or something, her adopted mother, and she was very upset and kind of affected her work, and they blamed her for shutting down. And she finds out at the end that the restaurant was being poorly managed and had nothing to do with her. So, but she had blamed herself the entire time, had not sought out another chef job. So, anyway.
Well, I'm glad that you gave that movie a little 10-minute review.
So anyway, I gave it it's number 11. So now here's my top 10.
Yeah, here's the movies that are actually important.
Okay, well, my number 10, and we talked about this yesterday, it was put in the wrong place because of what I made the mistake when I touched the stupid screen, and that was a Thanksgiving. So we did talk about this, and it's a horror movie based on a person who's a serial killer, and they dress up like a Puritan. They have a Puritan mask, and they wear like a black robe. And so, serial killer. But then the mask seems to be really popular. So it's almost kind of like Scream. A few people are wearing the mask. And so it's kind of detracting because you don't know who the real person is, but he's out there killing people right and left, but there's a connection between the people he's killing they don't know yet. So it's kind of like a mystery. He's a serial killer, and you have to find out who the serial killer is, why they're doing it. It's revenge. And
oh, you just gave it away.
It's at Thanksgiving. And usually, and like I said yesterday or a couple days ago, a Thanksgiving movie, I don't think there's any, except maybe it's Miracle on 34th Street, which is really kind of Christmas or Thanksgiving to Christmas movie. That's the only thing that's a good movie. All these other ones, you know, they all make fun of, like, they'll do stupid stuff at the table, and it's usually like a comedy, and it's crappy, and I don't like it. So, anyway, that's my number 10. My number 9 is Blackberry, and this was an interesting movie. I thought it was done well, and it was short and sweet, and I didn't have a Blackberry. My husband had a Blackberry. He really loved it, and he was really sad when he couldn't have it anymore because he really wanted to keep having it. And Marco said that was true for some people.
For a lot of people.
And the only thing I would, and it's just because I think they told the gist of the story, I think, of what happened, and they said, and one thing they do say at the end, they do have, like, you know, they put these little statements at the end of these movies that are based on real events, real people.
They didn't really do that as much here.
No, they only did a few statements, so I actually went and looked up myself, even though I don't care about Blackberry, but I thought it was interesting. And at the beginning, they had most of the phone market, the portable phone market, because you ought to have seen, and they did show them too, because I remember when people had, quote, first had their first cell phones, they were really long, and they were heavy and bulky. And I worked at the University of Illinois Medical School, and there was this one doctor, and he really thought he was hot stuff. He had this brand new cell phone. It was one of those big, bulky, fat, unusable things, and he carried it around. He just thought it was great. And so then when this Blackberry came out, I think everybody was like madly in love with it. They showed it. Oprah was on, and she was saying, everybody in the audience will get a new something Blackberry. And everybody was so happy and clapping and excited, and it was real. That was a real thing that happened. But anyway, it eventually went out of business, and you can guess why, because of the what Marco and I both have are these Apple phones. So it's a shame. But you don't know what happened to the people who made them, because you had this core group of people, and they actually both did. The main two guys who started the whole thing with BlackBerry, they're Canadian, and they did really well. They're millionaires. And the one, I thought he was shady businessman, but he was still a good businessman who, he wasn't, they were more of engineers. And because, of course, they engineered the phone and the signal, how it was carried, everything about that. It's a computer and a phone. And he was the businessman. He was about marketing the product. and hiring people who could best, mass produce it. And so he was shady, but Marco told me right away that I didn't even look him up, but he didn't even, he did some shady things. I mean, they were shady, but he didn't get in any trouble. He got away with it.
And I thought that was good because he didn't deserve to get in trouble.
Well, it's just funny because, it seems like these people these shady businessmen, they had this too. When we had this terrible economic crisis, oh God, when was I hate to, but when they talk about the movie, The Big Short, when all these houses were bought up in big clumps, all these loans, and all these people got evicted, and their loans went underwater, and they lost their mortgages and all this. A lot of those people didn't get in trouble either. They had a few, but I mean, it's amazing how. But he got away with it, and the two engineers, they actually are both millionaires. That's what I read on Google. So I don't know, but anyway, if you had a BlackBerry or you're interested in that kind of story, you should seek it out and try to watch it because it is really...
Yeah, because no one's talking about it.
No, nobody's talking, and I don't know why, because a lot of people have BlackBerries.
It's a very good movie. It's like The Big Short or Wolf of Wall Street or, it's like all these like really modern, comedic, but good true story movies, and like I don't understand why it's not in everyone's top 10 best of the year list.
And I don't know why. I don't know what. When so many people had Blackberries, I didn't know it was from Canada. That was one thing that really shocked me. The whole thing originated in Canada. So I know my husband didn't know that. So anyway, moving on. My next movie is Guardians 3. Now, it was good, but of the three Guardians movies, the second one was my favorite.
Yeah.
I just thought it was just done a lot better. This one was a little bit all over the place, just not too bad, but it still wasn't my favorite. And I'm just trying to remember. There was a few things they were just okay.
It was pretty mediocre.
It's still my top 10, but it's not as good as the second one. If you've never seen them, and originally we were never going to watch the Guardians movies because it sounded like a stupid idea.
Well, I knew it would be good, and I was like, it also felt like a lot of these movies nowadays, you see the whole movie in the trailer.
I don't watch trailers.
And plus, I saw like a ton of clips of it, and people just sharing around videos, and you see the whole movie before you actually get to see it yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So.
And it's
still good. I mean, it's still adequate. It's adequate. Like I said, these top 10 movies aren't outstanding.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They're
we should mention that.
They're in the top 10 because they had a good enough story, and of course I like the group of people in it, the actors. I think they worked well together, and I like the characters that were, I don't know what you call them, they're not real, but they're voiced by real actors, like the raccoon, and then you have the wooden guy, the stick guy, I don't know. The plant person, I can't think of what it's called. I apologize. I'm just not, and can't remember all that. But anyway, it was adequate enough and fun enough to be number 8. Then my number 7 is the car movie. It's called Gran Turismo, and it was pretty good, and it was a true story, and it's amazing. It's an amazing story, actually, I think, and you can't even believe it. And that it really happened. And I think the only negative thing, I think the actor and the real guy, they don't resemble each other a lot.
No, and I think it's kind of racist because, it's like the real guy, he's very darker skinned, and I think that they hired this actor because he has lighter skin,
I don't
and
know.
they think that the audience will only like him if he has lighter skin.
But I don't know about that. I'm just saying,
That's
in
true.
reality, the actor does not really resemble in a lot like the original person.
But
and Marco's the one who said that, not me. But it's true.
But then you saw it. Like I told you, and then you saw it, and you saw that it was true. But that is something that they do nowadays. Like, like, oh, we'll hire a black actor, but he can only be so black. He can't be like really black. That's what they probably did for this movie.
And then there's another movie that's in my top 10 where I looked up a few of the people who were in the movie because it's based on a real thing. And there's two movies here in this list that come before this. They're that come, up to the number one, go closer to number one. That I looked up the actors to see how much they resembled the real people. So I'll talk about that if it's really important. But it was a good story. If you want to, even if you don't care about car movies, I think you would like it.
Yeah.
Because it's a good story and it's good acting. So that's the thing. If you have a good story, you have good acting, there's good dialogue, and this is based on a true story, and I think that they don't even have to fool around with the dialogue because they probably have a lot that's already printed or like on tape, like hearing it, and so they can just copy that. They don't even have to make up real dialogue. So, okay, my next one is number 6, and it's Rebel Moon. Now, Marco just told me he was just so against this movie because there's some... Was it Zack Snyder who did this movie?
Well, it's a bad movie. That's...
I liked the movie. I thought it was entertaining.
Okay.
And I really did, and I guess I'm not the only one because apparently the international box office, at least, I don't know about the American, but
no, it's not the number one movie anymore, Safi. That was for a day.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't care. I liked the movie.
Okay.
And they did set it up for a sequel. I don't know if that's going to happen, and I would think they'd have to do some work because it kind of resembles...
No, they shot them back to back.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, he shot them back to back because he already had his full vision, and so they gave him a ton of money, and he shot both movies.
I think the problem with this movie that Marco was really mad about, which I probably should be mad about because I saw all the original Star Wars, and it's so much like it that it's almost a copyright violation. That's what he was so mad about, and I didn't look at it that way, and I'll tell you, the people who make Star Wars now, they could probably do with a little kick in the face.
Yeah, they could.
They've messed up the Star Wars movies when they used to be really good. They've kind of messed them up, and they could use a little kick.
Well, what they could use,
get them back in the right direction.
Well, no, what they could use is to lose the rights. That would be the only way that I would ever support Star Wars again. Is if
I don't know.
Disney lost the rights, because they do not deserve to own the rights. They've completely ruined the brand beyond recognition. So,
okay, well, it's a little long, but I thought it was fun. I liked it, and you might like it. I don't know, but I put it in my top 10 because compared to some of the other crap, it was really good. Okay, so and it was entertaining. That's another thing. If you're gonna invest your time in watching a movie, no matter how long it is, you better be entertained by it. It better not just be a drag to watch it, because you might as well just put it in the lowest 10 tier. So, okay, my next one is, now this was a movie, it's Oppenheimer. It's number 5. And this was long, and what really shocked me about this movie was that you can kind of parallel this with the movie that came out, which is on my list, with Godzilla -1. Because this is the making of the bomb that they used to bomb Japan. And the reason, and he did not, Oppenheimer did not start out saying, I want to make a bomb. You know, that was not how it worked. He wanted to work on the science behind it because it wasn't in the United States. And he was from Europe. And he moved here, and he started the program of science to make this bomb, although that wasn't the original intention of it. And so I've been, and so he's very, the thing that's different about him as a scientist is he was kind of a, I'll just say a ladies' man, a kind of, in a certain way. I mean, he actually had personal relationships, and he had a wife, he also had a lover, he had children, and I have worked with people like this, scientists, and years ago I worked with people who worked on the Star Wars Defense Initiative, SDI, and they were so focused in their work that they couldn't even tell you the kind of pizza they liked. They were just like, you couldn't even talk to them. They were just so, like, their brains were just functioned toward working. Work. And they couldn't even, they had no social skills. And I've been around other people in different sciences too. And you see this, you know, they call them mad scientists, because they're just so focused in their work, they can't see anything else that's going on around them. It's like Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein. He's so focused on, and that's not a real thing, but that's kind of what he represented, what a mad scientist is. They're just so focused on what they do. And on Jurassic Park, the very first one, when they were going through the the laboratory where they were incubating the eggs, and they were hatching, and Jeff, was this Goldblum? He said, you know, you have this technology, you have it, that doesn't mean it's good and that you should use it. And that's that kind of has to do with this Oppenheimer. And he actually had, besides personal relationships with, which I think is unusual, he also had some social skills, because he kind of had a bare interest, I think because of his brother, in the movement about people who needed rights, worker rights. And so, you know, he had to go through the 50s and had that senator from Wisconsin, I believe, McCarthy, who accused everybody and anybody of being a communist. And so we had this whole thing about that, went on. And of course, because of what he was doing, after he brought the technology or to study it to the United States, and then we have McCarthy, and then they decide they want to make this bomb, because Japan had this mindset, and you'll see this in Godzilla. My parents even told me, my dad was in World War II, and they didn't want to quit, and they would fight until every last one of them was dead. That's what they said. And so that's why they wanted to drop this bomb. But of course, after making it, you know, he had these feelings like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But the thing is, all the time he was working on it, all the time after he worked on it, they had this crap about security clearance. Now, we've heard this as of late, in the last few years, how important, because I've heard about this, because I know people who work at Wright Pat. We have a whole bunch of people who work at Wright Pat Air Force Base, because we live like down the street from there, and you have to have security clearances, and they have levels of security clearances to work on certain things. And all they did, like I'd say 50% of the movie, was talking about whether he should have security clearance, or whether he should have been given security clearance, or would you have ever given him security clearance because he had gone to a few Communist Party meetings. And I just was about ready to sock somebody in the face after watching that, because I know it's important, but for them to question, he was all about the science. He didn't care. That communist crap didn't have anything bearing on his work at all. And I guess they were worried about Russia. And I don't know, it just irritated me and drove me crazy. And they were punishing him. And then I don't want to go on anymore about it because it's really long. But if you have the time to invest in it, but the thing about that movie is it was pretty good showing him and his personal life, the technology, which it sounded like Chinese to me, even though I saw it was used to make the bomb. They showed them testing, and I think it was really bad with like cancer with those people nearby, even though they weren't right next to it. I think people who've been out in that area, actors, like let's say John Wayne is one. Other people did movies out in that area. They got cancer, and they think it has to do with setting off those initial blasts, those tests, and people are in that area, and they got cancer from the environment because of that, the ash.
Well, Safi, they made a weapon of mass destruction. They deserve cancer.
Oh, God. Well, I know. I was thinking, like, this is the thing in the Jurassic Park 1 where Jeff Goldblum makes that famous comment about, you had the technology, but did you really believe that it was the right should you have really used it? And so it's a very controversial thing. And then I was really shocked, and I wondered if this has happened. They did one very creative thing Marco told me, and I just want to say, because I'd never heard of this, but the parts that were in color in the movie, now this is where they made an actual differentiation between color and black and white. We talk about this all the time. They've done this with Fargo. They did it with Napoleon, where they suck out all the color, and they think that's creative. But they did it purposely in this movie. They made the real colorful scenes were the ones that they put together. It's like an archaeologist. You get all these things. You don't have the real story. You're talking about prehistoric Indians, for example. You don't have any records. You just have to put it together by what you find. So this was the color parts. They put together what they found, and they made dialogue, but it may not be the accurate dialogue, okay? Or, the way the scene was set up or whatever. It may not have been the real thing, but they put it together based on what they read or something. And the parts that were in black and white were the scenes that were real, actually happened. And they might have had, like, for example, when you have all these hearings on security clearance, they might have done, they had a transcriber transcribing all the information. And so they would have had all that. So those were in black and white, and those were real and true. That really happened. So that was I've never heard of that happening. Probably Marco has, but I'd never seen that. I thought it was very creative. But it is a very long movie, and it would probably make you want to look up the story about Oppenheimer or anything else you wanted to know about the subject. So I'll move on, and this will be easy because it's very short and sweet. It's number 4, and I put a high up there, and Marco says that some people were critical of this movie, but I thought it was really good. But it's more like the show. It was Mr. Monk's Last Case. And the thing about these, it's Monk, based on the TV series Monk. It had pretty much all the same characters, and of course Monk. And I really liked the show. And this was, the last few episodes of the last season of the show were terrible because they were down to the bare bones. They wouldn't let them have any money. And so that suffered. That made the show suffer, and which was bad. But it's such a good thing, and the characters were good, and it was a nice story, and I really loved it. I just it was good to see them stay true to the real show and real character, and then they had a good story, and it was not what I expected at all. That was another thing. That was a nice surprise, because I thought it was going to be all about his wife who was killed in a car explosion. It was her daughter, and he had discovered her, and I thought it was going to be all about her getting married, and what? Sorry, it wasn't. It was about she was getting married, but her fiance was murdered. So it was a murder case, and he was retired, and he was depressed, and he was going to end his life. I'm going to have some water, but so it was also about suicide, which I thought it was interesting, and the way they, at the end, when all the people he had helped, their ghost, because the ghost of his wife always appears, and she appeared a lot in this movie because she was trying to say, it's not your time, please don't do it. She was trying to encourage him, saying all these people would not, they all saw what you did, and they're happy that you could close the case out for their families.
Yeah, this will happen when you go on and on with your little list video. Or you need to take a drink. It wouldn't have happened if you had, kept it short and sweet and didn't just go on and on and on.
Okay, well, my next ones are 3 Saw X. I thought this was a really good Saw movie. We saw all of the Saw movies, every single one. And I could say there were some good ones, mediocre ones, but this one, even it's coming a few years later than the last one. I thought it was really good. And if you want to see a good movie, watch it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's really normal.
I have 2 more.
I'm glad that you're never going to get that taken care of, so that all the rest of your videos on this channel will just be continuously annoying.
Well, I take a
people.
medication.
Yeah, it's not an excuse.
And on the front of it says, on the bottle it says, can cause coughing.
That's not an excuse.
Okay, my next one is Godzilla -1. And I love this because I saw all the original Godzilla movies. It was true to the movies, but it was better done. And what was interesting, why I paired it with Oppenheimer, because they make Godzilla like the atomic bomb. It seemed to me that they equivalized him to the atomic bomb. And I don't know what the -1, I'm sorry, I don't understand what that's supposed to mean except to distinguish it from the other movies. But it was made by a Japanese person, and maybe that's why they did a better job, because these latest Godzilla movies that have come out in the last few years are awful. They're loud and they're obnoxious, and the stories are stupid. And this one was more true to the cause. I mean, when they made him appear, he was in Japan, the city part. He'd come out of the ocean. He had these glowing, what do you call them, plates on his back, and they kind of like popped up out of his back one by one by one, and each one was on fire. And then when he came down the street, he was roaring with the wind and of an explosion like that atomic bomb, like what they showed in the Oppenheimer movie. Because they showed the explosion in the desert. Now, they did not show it in what happened in Japan. They didn't show really, I don't remember, the aftermath, the explosion, or anything. And I know they have it. But in the Oppenheimer movie, they did not show any of that. So I thought it was just an interesting, and it was all Godzilla. I mean, in the other movies, you hardly even see him. They like to talk about him a lot, but they don't even show him half the time. They also stayed true to the music. And it was a little bit understated, but it was the exact music, all of it, that had been in the original movies. And the interesting thing about this movie was they had a kamikaze pilot. And a kamikaze pilot is supposed to just kill until they're dead, because kamikaze means they're suicidal. So they'll kill until they're dead, until they they'll fly into something to kill themselves. Well, this kamikaze pilot, and that was their mindset, which is in line with Oppenheimer. The Japanese were just going to, this is what they said, they were just going to keep carrying on the war until they were all dead. And when this guy, he just stopped. He stopped doing it, and they all got mad at him and said he was a coward. So I thought that was interesting. But in the end, he helped them because he got in a plane and he flew at Godzilla, and he survived because he ejected.
Okay, Safi. Safi. If you don't get the cough taken care of by the end of the month, you're off the channel.
Okay, so
no, I'm being serious.
Okay, so if he
I'm being serious.
If he hadn't done that, Godzilla would have gone on and on in a murderous rage. So I liked it a lot. I thought it was really good. It's very understated, but it's very true to the original Godzilla, instead of these new movies that they've had. Okay. My number one movie is Killers of the Flower Moon. I've been reading the book, an audiobook. I thought the acting was really good. The story is amazing because it's something we didn't know nobody knows anything about. Maybe if you live in Oklahoma you know about it, but I'd never heard about this. I lived in Missouri. We have all these places, Osage Beach, Osage everything. Schools are named after the Osage. And I don't think anybody even knows about this. This should be in history books. It's just like that Tulsa bombing that people talk about. Nobody knew about that either. So this is about the Osage Indians going to this crappy place in the country nobody wanted. It was rocky and crappy land, and they found oil. And then there were murders, and it's basically a mystery. And it's the beginning of the FBI with the Pinkerton group. And they help solve the case. Sorry, but there were still murders that they probably didn't get solved, but they were able to get a lot of it taken care of and solved, and the acting is really good. It had Leonardo DiCaprio and the woman who played is a Native American who played the actress, the main actress.
And what else would she be?
Who was married to Leo DiCaprio.
What else would she be?
And then they had Robert De Niro, who played the real bad guy. So that's it. So I can't really do too much anymore because my throat is like really parched, but I hope you enjoyed this video, except for the coughing. But tell us what your top 10 movies are of 2023, and did you agree it wasn't really a very outstanding year? And become one of our subscribers, and that's it. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.